Hello, it is Kyle here with Mr Marvel and Friends, and this is episode 3. And I have Gustav here from the Memory Corridor podcast. Hello, Gustav. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to recently?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on this new program. It's always great with more AC podcasts. But yeah, as you said, I my real name is Gustav, but I go by the name Gargudon in the AC community and most places online. And I have been hosting the Memory Corridor podcast for a couple of years now that I make in collaborations with the AC fan page, the ones who came before. And other than that, I post quite a lot of Assassin's Creed in-game photography on various social medias. And yeah, I'd say I'm a decent Assassin's Creed fan. I definitely hold on to the idea of it, but I haven't been that much of a follower in recent years as, it went towards RPG. Origins was the last one I played, and I fell off of that one pretty quickly. So since that, it has just been I've been living in the past when it comes to AC, literally living in the past. So yeah,
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
yeah,
So, do you want to just delve into that a little bit more? The reasons why you've sort of stopped
yeah.
playing Assassin's Creed.
I think it's because when it comes to open world games, I'm the kind of guy that prefers a little structure. Like, I don't know if you've played those, but Rockstar Games, another one of my favorite video game companies, they're the master of open world games. And, in the and that formula, Ubisoft used their formula for quite a lot of years. You've got your main story, you've got your side missions, you've got other activities. Overall, just a good variety of gameplay. But then in Origins with the RPG, it just all became too loose, and I was kind of indirectly forced to play unnecessary side quests in between main story. I didn't really want to play, so yeah. So even Origins, like I got it even though I wasn't back in 2017 that hyped for it. But I fell off of it pretty quickly, to say the least. And then shortly after that, I played Unity for the first time, actually, which was like a gift. Just go back to the AC formula I love. Yeah, it's the lag of the memory sequences and such that I just really miss. And then overall, like this, it's not even about assassins anymore. From how I understand it, it's all these spin-off stories almost.
Yeah, it kind of is. I mean, I loved Origins. I thought it was
Yeah,
sort of refreshing at the time, but now
there
I'm
were
tired.
parts
I'm tired.
there were parts of it I really loved, like the map size. I think I haven't even there are so many nooks and crannies of that map I haven't seen it all. And it was a beautiful map, and there were some really cool missions here and there. But that was about it, really. Like it wasn't a game I came to for the I guess for the story of it or the depth of it.
Yeah, so what would you make of sort of going before the age of the assassins and calling them hidden ones and
Yeah,
all that
like
sort of
all
thing?
of that is totally cool. It's just the fact that the story feels very loose and you can, do it whenever, however, and that just kind of, takes away the stealth aspect of it all in a way compared to back in the day when you'd have like optional objectives, stay undetected. That would kind of, if you went for those, like I always do, force you to, stay stealthy, do it the proper way. But now you can go in guns blazing if that's what you want to.
Yeah, and they got rid of social stealth in Origins and obviously Odyssey, and then in Valhalla they brought it back in, but it's sort of a bit half baked in my opinion, and it didn't work. So
Yeah.
I was just sort of I tried it the first couple of times, well, 2 or 3 times maybe, and I thought, screw this, I'm just gonna be a Viking, which is what the game is about, really, isn't it?
Yeah, of
So
course.
that's frustrating for me, and like I want to see a return to proper social stealth, like and proper
Yeah.
parkour. I've said this in the last two
Yeah.
podcasts.
Like you could always go back to Unity's parkour system, which is
Oh yeah,
brilliant. It's brilliant. Maybe a little supernatural, but it's brilliant. So yeah.
yeah, I agree. I was playing it a bit because our last podcast was sort of based around Unity being a bit underappreciated.
Oh
He
yeah?
was talking about the parkour quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Like
that's
I also played it a little bit recently myself. It's just great in so many ways. The map and the customization and the parkour, and it's just brilliant. So many ways.
yeah, man. Yeah, man. So So yeah, you haven't played Valhalla. Do you reckon you ever will, or do you reckon it's just not for you?
To be quite honest, I'm not that sure. Like based on my experience with Origins, like it would just become kind of a grind in a way, I fear. Um so I don't know. Right now, like currently I'm playing through some other games. I've been playing a little bit of Rogue Remastered here recently, just on and off, which is always great to go back to the past. And if anything, I might finish a Black Flag replay. I'm about halfway through. I started quite some time ago because I love Black Flag, favorite in the series and one of my favorite games overall. So yeah, I maybe I'll try it at some point, but I can't promise anything really.
Well, it's at least 80 hours. So
Yeah, like I think in
yeah,
terms of hours spent, Red Dead Redemption 2, which is like about 2.5 years old now. When that originally came out, I think in under 2 months, I spent around 230 hours with it. Like, I didn't even get it. Like, so 80 hours with an AC game sounds like nothing, but just depends on how much of a grind it is.
yeah.
Like in the last month of 2018, RDR2 was available. Like I had spent around 250 hours with it. I didn't even quite understand how myself. But that was pretty sick.
Yeah. So what what's your hopes and thoughts about AC moving forward in the future? Do
If
you see
anything,
it
like
returning?
if anything, it's just this, structure. I wanted that again. Like, to be honest, I don't really care if we don't really play as an assassin or it's or that, just as long as you have the blade and whatnot. I mean, hell, Black Flag, you're technically not an assassin for 2/3 of the game. You really just wear the robes. So it's not really that I have anything against. And then you could make the assassins and the ideology part of the story. But if anything, it's just that structure. You know, main sequences with optional objectives, some side missions, and then there are forts, whatever fortresses to conquer. Then there's collectibles. Just that really wide variety of gameplay that ultimately makes for tons of hours of gameplay.
Yeah,
And
that's
and
interesting.
every session feels the same. Like Rogue, I'm currently playing through. There's so much stuff to do, and every time feels like a new time. Like just the other day, I was playing like kind of assassin interceptions, which are reverse assassin contracts. And this morning, I've just kind of been sailing around, really wayfaring, and also conquering forts. And then next time, I can collect animus fragments and so on. So it's anything. It's just that structure and variety of gameplay I want back
Yeah.
more than anything.
So that's interesting. I would disagree with you on the sort of not having assassins. I get what you're saying.
It's a big plus, but just as long as I have the
Yeah,
blade and I can climb and I can stealth
yeah,
and whatnot, I'm fine. So
fair dues because they are the main gameplay
yeah,
elements. But yeah, I think Declan mentioned that on my last podcast about sort of having the themes of sort of what the AC games used to be about. But I want it to at least be in a time period where there is assassins because at the minute there's not.
yeah. If
I mean,
anything,
what's going on?
I think there's a rumor that the next game is going to be medieval France or something. Then again, that's just another leak, and AC is known for leaks, so
Yeah.
you never quite know. True, false, you never know. Um,
What,
but that would
what,
be brilliant. Medieval France that could tie into parts of Unity really well, and there's just a lot of potential there.
yeah, I would take that.
They could also connect somewhat to AC1, maybe. Given that's not that long after and such. So yeah, that's always a possibility.
So, what other sort of settings and time periods would you be
Yeah.
interested in?
Um, Obviously medieval France would maybe be something. And personally in history, I'm really interested in like, the 1700s, Age of Enlightenment, if you heard of that.
Not
And also,
really.
the Romantic Age in the early 1800s and such. And that's also where my favorite AC games are set: AC3, AC4 Black Flag, and so on. And now that I've been, replaying Rogue, what I would love was maybe a game, focusing on kind of wrapping Shay and Connor's stories together.
Yes.
Because we never really, maybe there are some comic books. I don't know if it's canon anymore. I'm not quite up to date on that. that explores it, but it could be fun to see in game.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
agree.
ideally, I'm thinking a game like where Shay in the late, just because he's an older man doesn't mean he's any less deadly. Single-handedly, he sets out to kind of tear the Brotherhood apart, American Brotherhood apart once again. Maybe even killing Aveline or something. You have to do
Oh,
that as the player. And then, him and Connor, they kind of have a standoff. They may get out alive both, but heavily wounded. And then they kind of need to pass on the sword to their children who need to pick up the fight. Connor has a daughter. We know that for sure. So, she could be around 15, 16 there when she starts training. And if anything, I think we also talked about that on my show when you were on. It would be brilliant to have Connor's daughter as a playable character, given a time where all these controversies come reach the spotlight, and movements like the AC Sisterhood and such. That would be a perfect opportunity to play as
yeah.
whatever, or something Native American. And then see, yeah, like maybe Shay's son as well, and it could be. I just think it's something that has a lot of potential. And Shay's son maybe starts questioning the Templar ideology or something, and yeah, and ultimately he maybe ends up working with the assassins, who would be Connor's daughter. Maybe even give that story kind of some Arno and Elise factors here and there, but we'll love maybe an actually good love story or something. I don't know. Um, yeah, I just see a lot of potential in those two characters, Shay and Connor, because I love Shay. He's such
Mm.
a brilliant character.
Yeah, I like Shay.
Yeah.
It's
What I
weird.
love about him is his honor. Like,
Yes.
his honor and his judgment. Like, this man is unarmed. I shouldn't kill him. And ultimately he's confused because, maybe when he's older at the end of AC Rogue, when he kills Charles Dorian, but up until that, he's not fully dedicated to the Templar cause. Like, he doesn't believe in the total control thing, but he just wants to do what's right. He doesn't want the assassins to have the power either. So that could also be really fun to explore again, like kind of in Rogue, really the two ideologies and the hypocrisy of both of them, and kind of portray the Templars as the good guys for once.
Yeah, I'd quite like that, to be honest.
Yeah.
So would Connor's daughter, was she the first one to sort of have that controllable eagle? Was it in like a
Uh,
comic or something? I'm probably way off on
like,
that.
she had the ability to literally connect with eagles,
I think so. I might be wrong on that. But
kind of like a mutant superpower or something almost.
yeah, like like in Origins and that. And I wonder, that leads me to another question. Would you like to sort of see that controllable eagle stay in the
I wouldn't
series,
have
or
anything against it as long as it kind of stays a little more sci-fi rather than fantasy. Because I saw a tweet the other day, like, where would you like AC going forward, sci-fi or fantasy? And I definitely say sci-fi there, because when it comes to those, like, they are kind of the same in some ways, but then again, one is more freaky and the other is more old-fashioned, I guess.
yeah,
I'm definitely a sci-fi guy if it ultimately is, Star Wars and Marvel and whatnot.
yeah, the fantasy has definitely creeped into the series.
Yeah,
And
and,
I
I, and
just
I'm
wanted
not
to
a big
get,
fantasy guy in real
yeah,
life.
I want to get your thoughts on that picture with like the werewolf in the upcoming DLC. Did you see
What's
that?
that like? You're able to control a werewolf,
Oh,
or
I don't know about that, but it's a werewolf in Assassin's Creed, basically. What do you make of that sort of stuff? Is it?
and the werewolf is just half human, half wolf, right?
I
Or
think so. Yeah,
uh, I don't know. Sounds a little far fetched in reality.
yeah, because it caused quite a stir on Twitter the other
And
day. Like a
wasn't that
lot
an
of people
odyssey?
were,
Like, Medusa and all those gods were real, but they were just like mutants of the apple or something.
yeah,
Like, they
possibly.
literally exist. No, just no. Sounds a little too freaky for me.
The thing is, I'm not surprised anymore. I sort of take it with the wind, this
I
sort of
have
stuff.
nothing against, let's say, the apple somehow, because somehow altering, let's say, select humans or something, kind of giving them extraordinary senses or enhances their powers or some kind. Just nothing's too supernatural. Like not make it go like full X-Men or something where everyone has all these crazy powers or something. One can shoot fire and one can whatever heal is invincible. But I could get behind that idea. Like, we already have Eagle Vision, which is kind of like a super sense, that is left over from the first civilization that was somehow implemented into the human genome. So I could that, someone has maybe extra strength, or I think I had an idea once, like kind of, just an idea I had for if an kind of alternate reality Brotherhood expansion. You're familiar with like, an old, I think it's Roman mythology, the four elements. What is it? Fire, earth, wind, and water.
I think so.
Yeah, and from what I know and how they tied into Brotherhood, like those are really, an essential part of that whole, Da Vinci mythology and, Da Vinci stories and such.
Oh, yeah.
I remember having an idea like an alternate reality in Brotherhood where like our main group of heroes got these kind of powers, kind of like Connor had his Native American powers, his animal powers. Like maybe Ezio is suddenly he's one with fire and what can turn into fire or something. It's just a far-fetched idea I had once. And what Claudia was like one with water or something.
I think a lot of fans will be upset if Ezio turns into fire because
Absolutely,
some of the reactions to the
but if it was an alternate reality, it would have been a different response because the Journey of King Washington, which was kind of fantasy-ish, was brilliant. Literally because they said none of this is canon, it's just an illusion. And Connor's super animal powers were awesome. Suddenly he can turn into a bird and it was awesome.
Yeah, in Valhalla there's a lot of it looked like sort of taking mushrooms and stuff.
Yeah.
So Eivor's like seeing things.
Yeah.
There's even like
that's how you go to Asgard, isn't it? Like through heavy drugs.
Yeah. So there's even like a talking moose in now.
Okay. Sounds freaky.
See, this is what I kind of want to ask you. Like, should it stick to the old games where there's none of this sort of stuff in it, or should it? Because a lot of people like this sort of stuff. I love Curse of the Pharaohs, by the way. I loved it.
That was a pretty cool one too. I love the whole, whatever it quite was, interdimensional aspect of it or something.
Oh man, the
I don't quite get, like in my own head, I kind of consider it kind of this alternate dimension, but in reality, it was just an illusion projected by the Apple. But then again, why would they be available after the curse is lifted? So I definitely like aspects of that for sure.
So you'd like to see more of that sort of stuff because Wrath of the Druids, the DLC seems to be heading in that sort of thing.
Yeah, but that's it. I'm a huge sci-fi guy. As I said, I love time travel and alternate dimensions, different realities and such. So kind of along that concept, that could be pretty awesome. And sorry, you'll have to.
That's all right. I don't
leave that out with a hidden blade sound or something. Yeah. Yeah, it's I would love to see more of that. If anything, that was another, I did an episode on this a few years ago. Maybe we should do a part 2 at some point, kind of supernatural elements in AC. And that was before Origins, just saying. Where I also got the idea, what if like at some point a first civilization device artifact holds the key to time, some sort of time travel. We've already seen that with, is it the Nexus a little bit? It's not directly time travel, but it's more like it allows you to be anywhere in time.
Possibly.
I like that concept. So I'd be open for the idea of not full on time travel, but some sort of it maybe.
So you're good with that sort of stuff then?
Absolutely. Yeah. If they just make it through the first civilization artifacts, and we've already seen that a little bit, so it wouldn't be all too bad. So
see, all I want is like a grounded Assassin Templar story with good parkour and stealth. That's all I want.
Yeah, and then make the story good. Make it, some characters we maybe already know somehow, or just make it a little longer. Make it good. Make it one of those that stays, like kind of like make it one of the best video game stories ever. Kind of like, some of the most iconic ones, like maybe, which one are there? Red Dead Redemption 2, Life is Strange, those kind of games. Heavy Rain. Put it up there. Because I believe Ubisoft could do that if they wanted to.
Yeah, they're just so I get it, there's loads of people, so many gamers love RPGs, but they're just sort of, I don't know, I'm tired of them now.
Yeah.
I just want a short game, a short Assassin's Creed story. That's all I want.
Absolutely. Like, yeah. Same.
Yeah.
And again, one where you can just focus on the main story without having to do, side quests in between and whatnot. Because that was also one of the major reasons I fell off in Origins, since I had to spend so much time, doing side quests to rank up. Because if you tried to do a level 37 quest at 33, it was basically impossible. I fell off.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that is the trouble. So yeah, what I wanted to ask you actually, I know you're a big fan of Black Flag, like me. Would you want to see a Black Flag sequel and maybe retcon his death? Edward's
there
death.
were some rumors about that the other day.
That was like a webtoon thing or something, weren't there? I see like Assassin's Creed
anything to be
Black Flag webtoon.
I don't want, like, as I said, total time travel, reboot story, new timelines and whatnot. But maybe if it was something set, between 1722 when that Black Flag ends and his death, 13 years later. Because there must have been some years where Edward, he maybe explored the world and, he set his family up in England and, he started training Hatham and such. Kind of like
he did travel. He did go to some Isu sites. He did look for Isu sites. So I think that'd still be good.
I would love to see that. Maybe before he handed and donated the Jackdaw to the assassins, like he wanted to take it for one last trip. Because he did end up donating it, and then as Adewale, you can find the wreck of it.
That's heartbreaking. I'm sorry, that's heartbreaking seeing that.
And even though, Ada and Edward started having their differences slowly towards the end, they come to terms and, respect each other and such. And, hadn't it been for the Jackdaw, Ada wouldn't have been anywhere. So he kind of owes it to Edward, even if Edward got in over his head.
So yeah, that would be cool for me because
I would love that. I would. Yeah, if they just still Edward dies in 1735. If they just stick to that, that could be brilliant.
It was just such a poor way for him to die, though. Reading that book,
so young, so tragic, so heartbreaking.
Yeah. So it would be interesting to see him go to other Isu sites. I think he went to one.
Absolutely, maybe throughout, maybe even throughout just throughout Europe mainly, I guess.
Yeah, I believe he went to try to find one in Italy. So that'd be cool.
That'd be pretty fun. I don't think he'd go to the other side of the world again. Now he has family and such, so he wants to stay close to home. So yeah, just around Europe maybe, and maybe a little bit North Africa and such.
Yeah.
That could work.
Imagine seeing Edward Kenway and the pyramids.
Just reminds me, actually, we have seen Origins, which is Egypt, but more when you think Africa, you don't really think Egypt. I'm thinking, Africa, with ancient tribes and languages and body marks and whatnot. That kind of Africa, and all these crazy drums and whatnot.
And the parkour.
And I don't know much about that history at all. But maybe throughout, when the slaving begins, that's, I think, 1600s. When the English and the Portuguese start, abducting people from the coast, the Gold Coast, it was called, to America. That could be so fun to see.
And the parkour could be in the sort of the rainforest and stuff, because there wouldn't be so many buildings really back then.
No.
Would there? So they would have to introduce the parkour to the Like in Black Flag.
That could really work. That was quite a good idea I just came up with there. Yeah.
So so that would interest you, France in the sort of the
medieval times, 1300s. Could tie into everything really well, maybe slowly, even some parts of AC2 could tie into that. Could tie in AC1, the Crusades, aftermath of the Crusades, and could tie in Unity 400 years later. Could tie everything in really well. It's close to everything historically, and yeah, that could work. And plus the map, I love those the Helix rifts. Remember those? That could be so fun to see more of. The Bastille and medieval Paris and medieval France, kind of those old towns. If it even was, they could tie in Joan of Arc, Jeanne d'Arc. I think that was early 1400s. No, so what was that town called? Rouen, it was called. I think it's in the south of France.
Okay.
So, yeah.
One that's fans have wanted for years, I kind of wanted it for years, but I'm put off the idea now, is feudal Japan. Would you like to see that?
I'm not too big on that, to be completely honest, just because Japan already has like its samurai culture, which is also free running, weapons, stealth, all that stuff. So I'm good with Japan. Plus, maybe you already also have other samurai games. What is it? Is it called Ghost of Tsushima?
Yeah, and Sekiro.
I don't know much about it, but that's kind of already like your samurai Japan game, maybe.
Yeah, and Sekiro has come out. Yeah,
I'm not too big on that, to be completely honest. Japan, more any other part of Asia, maybe China. We already have Xiaoyun and such, and rather China if it was, or anywhere else in Asia.
Yeah, I don't actually mind where the next one is now.
Yeah,
I just want it to be a good game and not an RPG.
We'll see. Maybe they've done the RPG trilogy now, and we'll see what happens next. So maybe it's time to go back to the roots, kind of like some rock bands will have their age where they kind of start going into electronic elements for a bit, and then they make an album and they go back to their heavy roots and whatnot, maybe blended with electronics perfectly and such. But really they go back to their roots with riffs and heavy guitars and such. So kind of like that. Ubisoft are going to do if you're familiar with that band, Bring Me the Horizon. They kind of did what I just talked about. Ubisoft should do that. Go back to the roots.
One thing that's disappointed me a bit recently is the fact that the games are not linear. They're not, you can play that arc or you can play that mission. It's sort of what you were alluding to earlier.
That's what I call structure instead.
Yeah.
It's not linear anymore, which sucks. And just makes it a little all over the place. Yeah,
I just don't understand it. I get it's like a bit of freedom and it's a massive open world. You can just explore and do what you want. Oh, look, there's a quest there. I'll do that, or an arc. But it's not what I want. I feel like a broken record here. I'm just saying I want it to go back to its roots.
If anything, have you seen the hashtag remake AC1? In some of the different, virtual photography communities, that's quite the thing. Every Tuesday, some people will post a picture of from any game really, just of whoever wearing Altair's outfit in remake AC1. Why not? It's the only one they haven't remastered of the old ones.
Yeah, Locust done a good video on that. That were only on,
the ones that were only on PS3, Xbox 360. So
maybe they are waiting. Maybe they'll do it on the PS5 and Xbox Series X.
Hopefully. I still have to get one of those consoles, so but I probably will within the next few months.
Oh, yeah, I can't even get my hands on one. It's impossible at the minute.
Oh, I hear Xbox stocks are better than PlayStation PS5.
Yes, PS5 is more in demand for sure. Yeah. Going back to the AC1 remake, Locust made a good video on that actually. Yeah. Would you want it to be sort of a remake where they just refine it, or a proper remake where they sort of change a lot of the gameplay and whatnot. How would you want it to? What direction would you want it to go
I
in?
actually haven't played the original AC1. It's kind of a shame.
Oh,
Maybe I should. Um, but if anything, just maybe touch up the graphics and let the game stay itself. I think that's important.
yeah.
Because if
Yeah.
anything, I fear what they might do. Suddenly, Altair, he can grow wings on his back and he can literally fly or something. I don't know. Yeah, let's just keep the game as it was, touch up the technical aspects of it, and I'll finally get around to playing it.
Yeah, that'd be cool for you to play it for the first time.
Yeah, I even got some some of my roots even go back to the Holy Land, so it would be like a homecoming. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd like them to go back to the Middle East at some point.
Yeah.
Considering that's where it started.
Oh yeah, maybe what else is there really? I think it's the Mongolia. There's so much history there, back in, the the first millennium, and so much history. Iran and so many places.
Yeah.
Eastern medicine and so much stuff. Yeah.
Cool, man. So is there anything you would like the series to sort of been? Is there
Have been like
instead of to get rid of?
Currently, I would say just bring back the old formula, the old structure that we saw last on Syndicate. That's all I'm begging for.
Oh yeah. You kind of said that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Syndicate was the last great AC game, in my opinion.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of Syndicate, to be honest.
I love Syndicate for
it's
whatever.
It's funny. There's some humorous bits in it. It's decent, but I just think you've got a Batman rope launcher in Victorian London. It's like, what's going on?
Yeah, maybe that's a little, but other than that, it's a pretty cool game. So,
like, it was great seeing London like that.
Oh yeah, beautiful.
Oh my god!
And
yeah,
the Jack the Ripper DLC still remains my favorite AC expansion. Love that. Genuinely love that. It was like a thriller, and I love thrillers. Like kind of Da Vinci Code, Zodiac, Seven, those kind of movies. So I love that stuff. Yeah.
So would you want to see a Syndicate 2?
Not necessarily, but I can only hope we could see characters like maybe an elderly Jacob or Evie at some point. We already got, Lydia, so World War I. So yeah,
but that's too modern for me.
Yeah,
I think Syndicate's too modern for me anyway.
Just that Anomaly was fine there, and so yeah, nothing more there.
And then Juno popped up above
scary.
London Bridge. Or Tower Bridge, sorry.
Yeah. Other than that, I just AC in the past for me. So yeah.
So I want to touch on one game that you alluded to earlier, because I know you're a big fan of them. Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let's touch on Red Dead for a bit, because
sure.
What is kind of similar sort of subject. What do you see in the future of Red Dead? So what would Red Dead 3 entail, or what would you want it to be about?
What I would like for that would be, instead of going up in time, early 1900s where the West was non-existent, is that we go back to when the West was at its high. Because all the, John and Arthur's stories set during the twilight of the West, but 1870s where, southeastern USA was outlaw country. That would be great. And maybe
mad, isn't it?
Make it go back in time and not necessarily play as someone Arthur, Dutch, whatever, but have someone else. Maybe make it the classic Western revenge story. Kind of like maybe a guy is on a hunt to avenge his family who was killed by a rival gang or something. And then, in order to get to those, maybe you meet some familiar faces along the way, maybe a young Dutch and Arthur and whatnot. Maybe in the 1880s, I think Arthur, he would only be around 20 there. That could be pretty fun to see. And just a younger version of everybody. And John Marston, he would be a little boy then. So that could be pretty fun. Just go back to the highlights of the West.
That would be cool. My theory is,
and then make it kind of a classic Western, more of a classic Western story, but then again, meet familiar faces along the way.
that'd be cool.
That would be what I would love there.
Yeah, I think that would be cool. Because my theories, I've got two theories. It's either going to be a prequel to Red Dead 2, so it keeps going back, or it's going to be in Australia, because there's a few mentions of Australia.
Oh yeah, it's Australia or Tahiti.
Yeah. So I think it's either going to be one of those.
Yeah.
Australia was similar. Was a bit similar, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Got the outback and stuff.
Oh, yeah. But now it would just be fun. 1880s, also some of the politics at the time, the genocide of the Native Americans, maybe, because we already, touch upon that in Red Dead 2 towards the end, especially, where you fight the government and the army, who are, threatening the natives. Yeah, I think I had an idea years ago. It could be a fun story, maybe a man who, he's an ex-outlaw now, but some rival gang has kidnapped his daughter or something. And the game starts off with, him and the boys going into, let's save her. But that mission goes totally awry and, a lot of casualties. And then a few years later, he sets out on the hunt to find his daughter's killers. And that sets him on quite the adventure. But then again, for map, then it would be because they recreated some more real life places, kind of like, because, New Austin, which is, the desert area, is very loosely, not based on anything necessarily. And sites like Monument Valley, the mesas, I've been there in real life. It's the sickest place ever. You know what I'm talking about. It's the place you see in every Western film.
Yeah.
Maybe I can find the picture here, actually. But yeah, kind of maybe recreate those real landscapes, the Monument Valley, or even though similar landscapes are down in Mexico, but whatever. No, just more desert and maybe some small towns. And if there are any other cities, maybe early California or something. I don't know.
Sounds
if anything,
good.
just go more west, because a lot of RDR2 was east or in the Midwest, and down in the south. And down in the south and whatnot. So it'd be pretty fun just to stay in the West, the real West for once.
Yeah, I think it has to do that.
That's me there, yes. But no, with the mesas in such place. Sickest place ever. It's in Navajo, so yeah, it's such a cool place.
Isn't that a reservation? That's a reservation, isn't it?
Yeah, Navajo Indian Reservation, Monument Valley or something, I think it's called. But yeah, in general, if anything, I don't think we'll see another Red Dead game for at least 5 more years, considering how long Rockstar take with their games, and all they put out nowadays is constant GTA Online remasters, and they're gonna, remaster that until the PS10. So
they release it on every console,
and add even more flying motorcycle. If some people think Assassin's Creed went bad, just look at GTA Online. What? It went from street hustling to World War 20 with sci-fi motorcycles and guns and whatnot. So pathetic, especially having played it from day one 8 years ago. So kind of pathetic. But yeah, I can only hope Rockstar will not act like sellouts on GTA 6 if again that ever comes out. But
yeah, they're just making so much money on 5.
RDR 1 and 2, so many years before we see a Red Dead 3 or something, if it is.
Yeah, I played Red Dead 2 online and it was terrible. I played
not as good.
My God.
It's really grindy. Not a whole lot of stuff to do. Maybe you can have some shenanigans with friends, but other than that, everything is just in the story mode there.
Yeah.
Story mode is just so much better. It's, again, like Black Flag, it's one of those games where doing nothing is so fun. Literally just wayfaring, exploring nooks and crannies and whatnot is the best.
Did you see the UFO? Did you do that?
In RDR2, I never found that yet.
You go in this little cabin and at a certain time, and it's like above
Oh
you.
yeah. Oh, I remember.
Ah,
I saw that. It says House of Dead People, and because that's what I love about Rockstar is all they also have these supernatural elements here and there. You remember the Strange Man?
Strange Man. Which one's that?
You played the original Red Dead.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the Strange Man. Is that guy? He's a stranger. He kind of has a top hat, and John kind of meets him. But
Oh, I
and you can
think
actually
so.
find a cabin in the second one where there's a painting of him, and then you briefly see a ghost of him. Like it's
Oh,
pretty creepy. Um, he's such an interesting character. Like some people say he's the devil or something, and he's like John's idea of it, or he's some supernatural being. So that's kind of freaky.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a vampire in there as well.
Oh yeah. I haven't found that guy yet, but
Yeah, it takes a while. I didn't do it. I just watched it on YouTube.
that's
It takes
another
a while.
thing. What I love about I saw a lot of Edward Kenway in a character like Arthur Morgan, actually. You know, the guy who starts out kind of brash. He really just wants what's good for himself, but then as he starts losing more and more, you know, he starts seeing the bigger picture, and you know, decides to use the last of his honor to do good for others who actually need it.
That's true.
Arthur, you know, he's a doomed man. He knows he's dead, and kind of like Edward, you know, he's lost everyone. You know, he cared about Mary, Blackbeard, Caroline, everybody. So he has a choice to make. Do I want to drown in self-pity, or make sure no more people die? So
That's a good point. I've
Edward
never
is
thought
just,
about that.
at least character-wise, my favorite Assassin's Creed character for sure.
So I've never thought about that before. To be fair, you're right. There is a lot of similarities.
Yeah,
Hmm.
there definitely is. Yeah, so that's that.
Yeah. Red Dead. It's a long game, but Red Dead 2. Well, both games really.
Brilliant.
They're long games, but I'll play them over and over.
It's one of my favorite video game universes. That's for sure. So
Yeah. Wicked,
yeah,
mate. Wicked, mate. I'm glad we touched on that.
absolutely.
I think
Shortly on that, can we agree Assassin's Creed in the Wild West would never work?
nah.
There was some pretty cool like fan compositions, you know, who made a Wild West AC theme, but it would just never work just because Red Dead already exists. And oh, you're trying to fight me with a blade. Well, everybody's using 6-shooters and whatnot. It just wouldn't work.
Nah,
It would
not
not
at all.
No,
Not
just
at all.
no.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we touched on that. I think we'll sort of wrap it up now. I will put the links in the description for your multiple Twitter. I will put for your
Absolutely.
Twitter channels and your sort of podcast and
Absolutely.
whatnot.
All episodes on that can currently be found on the ones we came before YouTube channel, and I am working on having them distributed to other podcast services as well currently. I just need to upload a few remaining episodes from throughout the years.
Nice one. And do you want to touch on the mental health sort of
Sure, I can. I guess
thing you've got?
I can plug that. Yeah, it's because let's get serious for a second. You know, the world is in shambles and has been for quite some time now due to lockdowns and everything. And one of the things I feel like is overlooked are the mental consequences of it all, especially among young people. That is why we can also plug that. I have launched the project I call Forgotten Youth to try and spread awareness about, you know, young people mentally affected by everything. And that could be everything from, you know, plans being put on hold to uncertainty to everything that might throw anyone into a state of depression or loneliness or something third. And it works by gathering and sharing stories of how, you know, the lockdowns have somehow worsened one's situation or something, and they can be shared by name or anonymously and as video or text, but more info can be found on that on the different pages. It's currently active via different social medias, and we'll probably launch a main website eventually. So if anyone watching this feel like they have something to say, feel more than free. Info on how to share your story can also be found down below. So yeah, thanks for letting me say this.
That's right, man. That's really good calls. Really good calls. And
Yeah,
best of luck on that. And yeah, All good, all good. Well, thanks for joining me, Gustav.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah,
It was
it's been
really fun.
been a good
Anytime.
little chat. Got a bit of Red Dead 2 in there as well, which is always good.
Of course.
And yeah, I'll have to sign off now. Thanks for watching, everyone, for watching episode 3. Make sure you like, subscribe, and watch all my other podcasts. And I will see you soon. Cheers.